Please turn to page 6 for the ending. Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind, all that is, and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We offer this sincere and devoted practice for the many beings in the 6 worlds, and dedicated and grateful thanks to the strength and sound practice of the Great Heart on Sangha and its teachers. May our virtuous actions be clear from all interferences, and may our vows be fully realized. We especially dedicate these offerings to those whose names we hold in the silence of our hearts, as well as those whose names we now voice aloud. May we live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma, and may we realize the Buddha way together. Anyone for beginning instruction in meditation, please meet me outside the zendo. Everyone else, please prepare for zazen.
Gatha on opening the sutra. The Dharma incomparably profound and infinitely subtle is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, receive and maintain it. May we completely realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm just wondering, there's a few people, especially Chris over there, that I just can't see. So, yeah, scooch around just so we don't have to crane our necks to see one another. Thank you. So we have some newly minted bodhisattvas in the house. Do you want to just say your name and what it means? And we'll start over here with Lee. Ayun. Yes. So it's E, right? But it's pronounced A. Ayun. So we have another A, Eka. So Eka is E-K-A, but it's pronounced Eka. So we'll never forget that. Right, very good. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, one more. Oh my gosh. I think this is the same guy that forgot to put his Roxu on. Am I seeing a pattern here? Just in case you forgot about that. So remember, Dharma names are both kind of like what we're kind of seeing, but also what the future will hold. So, yeah. All right. Rinsen has asked me to begin my grimoire. And for those of you who were here the last time I was giving my talk, this is the book that he gave me. And he said, start writing. So this is the second in the series of talks that I've been giving about the Mumonkan. And actually, I'm not even going to begin on the first case. So I kind of did a little bit of a wind-up the last time, and I'm going to do another wind-up, and then the next time I talk, I'm going to talk on the first case. So, because I wanted to talk about koans a little bit more kind of just generally, because I've had a number of people kind of say to me, I don't know, do you think I can do koans? What is this? I don't think I can do it. It's too hard. And I'm like, yes, of course. And koans are, just even before I explain it a little bit more, it's sort of like we have all these threads of practice, okay? We have liturgy, we have zazen, we have community time, we have sesshin, we have workshops, we have teaching retreats, and we also have koan work. So think of the koan work as sort of one thread amongst a sort of more fuller menu of training here at the temple. But it is a very significant thread. And the reason why it's a significant thread is because we're not living together day to day, polishing each other just by kind of like rubbing up against each other and talking to each other and telling each other stories and cooking together and cleaning together and doing all the messy things we do together as we're living together. So the koan is a way of encountering reality that does not require that we live together, but nevertheless incredibly effective. So, first of all, this book is really good. I'm basing a lot of the talk tonight on this book. This is by James Ford, so Myoan Ford. He is my grandfather, actually, in Zen. Although, interestingly enough, I finished all of my koan work with him and Melissa Blacker, all the books in the 5 ranks, but I got transmission from Rinzin Roshi. So, Introduction to Zen Koans, if anyone's interested in going a little deeper. And I like the subtitle here, Learning the Language of Dragons, right? Learning the Language of Dragons. So all you dragons should definitely be getting this book so you know how to talk. And also, you should know that Ryudo, our way name, means Dragon Hall. So you are now in the Dragon Hall. Yeah. Of course, dragons in Buddhism are enlightened beings. So you're in the Hall of Enlightened Beings. Pretty cool. Okay, so just to start off, thumbnail definition of a koan, it's called a public case. Isn't that fascinating? It's just a public case. It's like applies to everybody, right? But before we go into it a little bit more deeply, how do you get a koan? This is super important. In Zen, the relationship with the teacher, especially Koan Zen, is primary. And you can read your books, you can talk to your friends, you can go onto the internet, you can do whatever you want to try and see what a koan is. You can even try to work on it on your own. But it's so easy for us to kind of fool ourselves and think we have the answer. And interestingly, working on koans is like nothing else you will ever encounter in your life, because the answer doesn't necessarily come in being right. It comes in merging with the energetic quality of enlightened, awakened energy. So let me repeat that. I think that's worth repeating, right? So it doesn't come from necessarily getting the answer right, although you do have to be in the ballpark, right? It is actually what we're feeling when we're saying yes, yes, is that energetic quality of awakened life that is flowing through all of us as this public case applies to everybody universally. Any person who's ever been born or will be born, any sentient being, any tree, any rock, anything. So the way to get a koan that is actually going to open our hearts and allow us to just totally merge with enlightened energy is actually through a teacher, right? The teacher gives you the koan. In other traditions, the Tibetan tradition, for instance, the teacher will give you a yidam practice or a sadhana or a teaching. And the important part of that is that you are in front of the teacher getting these transmissions. And it really has nothing to do with the personality of the teacher, even how smart the teacher is or anything else. What it has to do with is this sort of mind-to-mind recognition that comes down generation after generation and gets verified by teachers, by the previous generation to the next generation. That's what's important. That's what you need to make sure is like legitimate and spot on, because what's happening is you are going to see with the same eyes of the tradition. It said your eyebrows are going to intertwine with the eyebrows of your teacher. So how do we get it? We get it from a teacher. And actually, literally having the teacher read the koan to you is also an energetic transmission. It's not the same as reading it in a book. And why is that? Because when you read it in the book, you're kind of ricocheting in the echo chamber of your own mind, right? But when you get it from the teacher, you're absorbing so much more information than just the words that are being spoken. So Zen, in particular, is really a body energy practice more than anything else. So what exactly is a koan? Well, James says it's, as the title suggests, it's the language of dragons. It's the language of ultimate reality. It's the language of our face before our parents were born. It's the language of our Buddha nature. It's the language of our true nature. I like to think of it as a homeopathic dose of light, where we're using words, short little words, right? Or sometimes a little longer, to go beyond words. And interestingly, James talks about this, and I think it's really important to know going in up front. You know, you can argue with a koan. You can try and pick a fight with a koan. You can wrestle with a koan. but the koan is always going to win. Because reality is always going to win, right? No matter how much we try to contrive it for ourselves. The truth is the truth, right? And also, the koan plays a little rough with our ego. And you have to be able to stay in the game with that, right? Some people, they don't like it, and they go away. They think, oh, this is not for me. But I guarantee you, if you actually stay with the challenge and the throwdown that the koan is giving you, and see it all the way through, that your heart will tenderize, your eye will clarify, your life will be imminently more workable. You will have more trust in your capacity to move through the world. You will be trusting your intuition like 1,000,000 times more. Basically, what it does is it turns the consciousness on its seat, right? So normally it's the intellect that's kind of like up periscope, and it's like moving around and checking it out and calculating and recalculating, right? And there's lots of wonderful concepts and intellectual things to discover, and we love those things. But what happens is it just gets so big and so massive that it kind of overshadows the intuition and the direct experience of true reality, right? So the koan calls us into that direct experience, that intuitive experience, that body experience, that body knowing, that knowing that we came in with already. So much of koan work is actually letting go of what we think we know, what we think we're about, what we think the koan is about. I was actually working with a student this week during the retreat, and they said to me, I've worked on this point like 5 other times. I'm sure I must have to give a different answer. It wouldn't be the same answer every 5 times. And I looked at this person, them, and said, yeah, your kid's yelling at you for the 6th time, right? Are you going to turn around and say to the kid, hey, you've yelled at me 6 times? No, it's just going to keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And our job is to meet it exactly where it is, the moment exactly where it is. And the koan teaches us how to meet it, our life, exactly, precisely as they are. So we work so diligently to completely embody the koan when we're working with it. So they have this this term, I guess, in Buddhism. It's called a terma. It's like a treasury that was buried like by a past master. And then at some point, a future disciple will come along, and with geomancy and everything else and using their intuitive powers, they will figure out where this buried hidden treasure is. And when they unearth it, it's called a terma. A koan is a terma. It's somehow unearthing this enlightened treasure that we came in with, that we just didn't even know we had, right? We're just going around like doing the best we can, trying to figure out what the hell is going on and how to make it through the day, right? But meanwhile, we've got this whole treasure house of intuitive, direct response that is loving and kind and nice and connected and all these wonderful things that we work so hard to try to establish in our life. The Koan shows us, reveals that treasure to us. So, what are the prerequisites for doing Koan study? Well, first you have to show up, right, on a consistent basis. Secondly, you have to be willing to go into the Dokusan room and just be yourself. Like, totally be yourself. And that can be a little daunting, right? That is like super daunting. I mean, I remember for years going into the Dokusan room, and I'd be sitting in the Dokusan line, and my heart would be like just pounding out of my chest, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And of course, if you try and like have a plan, a battle plan for how it's gonna go, it never works, right? We all know that. We all nod in agreement. And actually, you can go in there, right? And you could have like this really intense thing that you wanted to say. And then by the time you get up from your bow, you're like, what was that thing I was thinking about? Right? All of this is part of Zen training and Koan training. Because actually what's happening there when you're like, oh, that really intense thing I was going to talk about, now I can't even remember what it was, that is what? Letting go, right? There you are in real time, letting go. So the first prerequisite is you have to be willing to meet with the teacher and show yourself. And you have to be okay with like, I don't know what the hell is going on, and and that is perfect. That's like a perfect expression of you, of Mu in this moment. Perfect, complete, just exactly doing you as you, and like, amen, perfect, right? You make the mistake, amen, perfect, right? So, I can't stress that enough. And then, there'll also be times when you will make the mistake and you're going to get the rug pulled out from underneath you, and the teacher's going to just give you a bunch of shit, and it's going to be really uncomfortable. And again, staying in the game, deciding that my enlightenment and my awakening is more important than me feeling a little bad about myself or the teacher, right? And this is the winnowing, really, to tell you the truth. This is like strengthening. And Zen is not for everybody. Zen is kind of a warrior spiritual practice. Okay. So the second prerequisite is you actually have to have something called Samadhi, right? You actually have to settle the mind, the intellectual mind. Because remember, the intellect functions dualistically, right? The intellect has a subject and an object, right? Well, the Dharmakaya, the first thing that we investigate in Buddhism, is non-dual, right? So we have to learn the language of non-duality. And it isn't always words. And it always carries that energetic signature. And for those who have been in the Dokusan room enough and have worked on koans, you know what I'm talking about. You can't really describe it to somebody, but you know it when you feel it, and you know it when you see it. So what about this Samadhi business? Samadhi is concentration. So we have to get ourselves to the point where we can actually be with our minds and not keep elaborating the narrative, the story that's in our head. Why is that important? Because the story that is in our head is part of a dualistic narrative. It is the mind weaving the story. Okay? We are trying to live and discover the terma of before we break the world up into subject and object. Before we cause all this havoc with separation, this idea of separation. So Samadhi happens very, some would maybe say, no, that's not right, Joan. It doesn't happen easily. But it actually does happen easily. That's when you get your breath practice, right? The mind goes in the hara. Spiritual center of the body. The breath goes into the hara. All the pores of the body breathe. And we simply prefer the breath. Attention to the breath, preferring attention to the breath over whatever thoughts, thinking we have in our mind. Super simple. We let go. We let go of the story. Now, what ends up happening there is now the body starts balancing. The mind starts settling and balancing with the body. They're no longer fighting each other. And the intuition begins to take its proper seat. This is very important, to let the intuitive heart take its proper throne, if you will. And after a while, damn, I'm feeling kind of calm, right? There's some spaciousness here. There's some kind of warm-hearted embrace. And I can't say, is it on the inside or is it on the outside? You can't even say anything about it at all. Now, when the teacher checks and sees that this is true for you, this is a perfect oyster. Now, we drop the koan into that calm abiding. Now you have a shot, because you've already brought forth this intuitive, warm-hearted, spacious truth of your life. very interesting because we used to teach Zen as requiring three things: great doubt, great faith, and great determination. And it was a bit husky, which is not bad. I like a little husky. But I think given our times, given how husky and how aggressive the world is right now, and how much on fire the world is right now, approaching our work through this calm abiding is really super, super critical right now. And inside of that calm abiding, it's possible to have this great determination. And here, great determination means I will find the treasure. I will find the terma. I will investigate this koan thoroughly so that this awakened, enlightened energy is arising as me. But it's all, again, in that, it's a bit more pillowy. You know, it's much softer, much more gentle. Gentle and determined don't have to be opposites, right? Try parenting. You need a lot of determination and a lot of gentleness. I'll never forget the first time I realized, like, I was giving correction to my daughter, and I was using the same kind of energy and force that I would use with an adult. And it was like I could see, oh my God, if I keep doing this, this kid's going to be totally screwed up. Because she's not there, right? I have to meet her in the gentleness of her infancy and her childhood. Even if she is giving me the Darth Vader eyes, right? Right? Same thing with the koan work. Meeting it in gentleness. And this great doubt actually is not the husky of like, not yet. No, I haven't seen it yet. I must go deeper. I must go deeper. You know, and you kind of like grit it all out. More wax with the Kiyosaku or whatever. It's actually more of an opening of a great wonder, an inquiry. It's like, what is this? What is the truth here? What is this koan? What's going on here? For real. And you see how all these things energetically map on each other. The warm-hearted spaciousness, the gentle inquiry, the gentle determination, and finally, great faith. Myoen Roshi says, you know, it's good enough at the beginning if you just sort of suspend disbelief and think, well, maybe this will work. That counts. And I think he's right about that. But this faith is really trust in our Buddha nature. Trust in our true home. Trust in our capacity to be really loving and kind. And especially kind of like intuitively and directly clear-eyed, that we don't have to go through a lot of intellectual machinations. So, prerequisites: Samadhi, great doubt, great faith, great determination. Okay, and I think one other thing I want to just get out, and then we can stop because it's getting a bit late. I wanted to talk about the kinds of koans. So there's different kinds of koans, and I'm only saying this because as you go through the system, maybe you'll remember it, maybe you won't, I don't know, but it seems important to tell you up front. So there's a couple of different classifications, and I'm just going to go through them real quick. The first, there's 3 kinds of koans. This is the classical way of understanding koans. The first is called ultimate truth koans. So those would be about the nature of reality, Buddha nature, our face before our parents were born. Then there's also koans called Koan, which are about the function of Buddha nature. So we need that function of Buddha nature, otherwise there's no bodhisattva activity going on, right? You got to be able to show up and do stuff with your Buddha nature like glowing. It's like the Buddha glow up, right? And then there are also koans called kojo, which is appearance. How does, we say the Dharma wheel turns and turns, and so reality is shown in all of its many forms. Well, what are those appearances? And the koan system, there's about 1,700 of them, so it combs through a hell of a lot of appearances, right? And this is all really important because we want to make sure that we awaken and enlighten all the aspects of ourselves that encounter appearance as a dangerous beast to be slain, as opposed to something to be worked with and something that is workable. Or we encounter appearance as something to be seduced and acquired, as opposed to encountering that appearance as awakened life. So Koan also had a system similar. First koans are Dharmakaya koans. So when you're working on mu, this is a Dharmakaya koan. Remember, the Dharmakaya is the absolute, the boundless, the no edges, the non-dual. We work on those for a long time. So you go through like tons of checking questions on mu, and then you go through tons of checking questions on the sound of the single hand. So when you're here working through the system, you're really getting like a very superior education in Dharmakaya koans, which is important, right? Because we want that non-dual reality, that truth of our non-duality, to really be radiating out and really have a lot of comfort and ease with our life as non-dual, right? And then there are these called action koans. So what arises out of that non-dual? What is the function, the action that arises out of that non-dual? That's a whole other set of koans. So That would be oak tree in the garden, or Nanshuan cuts the cat. This might all be Greek to you, but it won't be. Eventually, you'll be working on these koans. Then there's Gonsen koans, skillful use of words, right? In Zen, we say there are dead words and there are live words. And we all know the difference, do we not? Those dead words, you get a little bored, you start yawning, you're not getting any energy out of what the person's saying. Live words, you're like, maybe you don't even know what they're talking about, but still it's like something's communicating, something's animating, right? Nanto koans are difficult koans. And you really got to have your staying power going there because, well, I can tell you right away, I worked on my first koan for 10 years. 10 years going into that Dokusan room over and over and over again, being told, no, that's not it, something else. Can you imagine? I wept a lot of tears. An ocean of tears, I might add. But what happened in those ocean of tears, that 10 years of struggle and difficulty? What was I working through? All my karmic arrogance, all this karmic knots, so many karmic knots that I had, right? My first teacher was very generous. He would say every once in a while in the Zendo, it doesn't matter if you've passed Mu or not, you're still working on yourself, you're still working on your karma. And I'd be like, yeah, right. But lo and behold, after 10 years of working on it so intensely and so, in such like, just the full panoply of emotional whatever, mostly despair and remorse and total depression, feeling like a total loser. But once interestingly enough, I had seen the koan years and years ago, before I even started studying Zen. And I was like, I didn't know that the koan was asking me to express something I already knew. And as soon as I figured that out, it was like, oh, you want to know that? You want me to show you that? That's just so obvious. And what ended up happening was then the rest of the koans just went zip, because there was so much work that had been front-loaded. So I'm saying this so that you don't get depressed if you're not passing your koans right away. And that was a real difficult koan for me, a real Nanto koan. And then there's other koans about the 5 ranks, coming out of form into emptiness, coming from emptiness into form, coming from form into form, coming from emptiness into emptiness. I mean, there's all these different ways of the dragon swims in the ocean of the Dharma. Okay, it's getting late. Oh, this is good. Actually, in this book, I'll leave you with this. Apparently, The Simpsons used a koan in one of their episodes. And Lisa asked Bart to answer the question, what is the sound of the single hand? And Bart gave his answer. And it wasn't the answer that we accept, but nevertheless, I've seen this answer quite a bit. But anyway, I leave you with that sort of, I guess it was sort of tickled my fancy, because koans are kind of part of our culture now in a certain way, aren't they? Okay. So hopefully this inspires you to want to practice, and hopefully this has landed in your heart in such a way that when things are feeling a little shaky, you just kind of keep going, and hopefully you are inspired. Koans have, without a doubt, been really central to my practice and Rinzin as well. So we'll end there this evening. Do the Bodhisattva vows.
Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow Thank you for your practice, everyone. Do we have any announcements? Please restore the Zendo.
Can I see the liturgy team for a minute out here?
No.
She's not proud of us.
Oh, thank you. That's all we have. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. You would?
Was there a Levi?
No.
A son?
No.
Because I thought you were organizing a Levi. And you organized people right into your seat.
Oh, me?
And your seat.
I was told to.
Yeah, who maybe that son? But you still need to leave the Jisha seat and the altar seat open, because that's what took everything off the rails. You guys weren't able to make eye contact with each other. I think that
Yeah,
started
great.
that fall. So always leave those seats open. And usually that is an assignment that goes, there's a little bit of training that comes with it, and you certainly capable, but you should, like, get that training so you know how to go on and that. But those seats still have to stay open unless something changed.
Yeah. No, nothing.
Because that's what, because when you were clear up here, you couldn't see the
Yeah.
teacher, you couldn't see the cues that you needed to know it was time to go to the hot or.
Because we should like be across from each other.
And supporting each other, so like when he forgot to straighten up, those hot doors, you could have sent that like radar energy to help remind them what you needed to do. Because we shouldn't have to like shuffle out of seats to do that, it's just too much movement.
Right.
So,
So respectfully, should I have just told her?
you should just remind her. Just remind her, so you don't want those two seats that are open and cross will fill in the extra procession.
She told you to put people in there?
Yeah, I said the only one that's open is the altar usher. So she said,
Oh.
so I didn't know, I didn't know.
Yeah, just remind me, you guys need a place to sit and you'll fill that. Because otherwise it just sent everything off. That was the beginning of the thread.
Good job.
Can you just, I almost like that, my separate comment on all that. It's like, clear someone is, I did that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, put yourself, claim your spot.
That's my seat.
Flat your flag.
Just say, that's my seat and the other seat is so on.
Okay.
So, she'll get
Not trying to point fingers, just
that.
trying to.
I understand. It's always like, that's all practice. And I think the other piece was, during, she didn't wait for your bell, the Anna didn't wait for your bell, and she went into,
Right. That dedication.
dedicate the miracle.
I was in
Bell, sound of her heart, so she went right into that.
There's a two boss piece of it.
That was a lot.
The biggest thing was just the seating was so off that people couldn't connect and make that eye contact. So many things on. So,
And we're used to that, those,
yes.
to having that steam like that, and it sort of happens.
Yeah. See, like you were over here in the show there,
And I was doing
she's in another zone. I was like,
Everybody's clearing their throats.
And you know what? And you know what, the correct thing should have happened, which should have been, I should have said, altar usher.
yes.
That's what should have happened, you know, not, because that's, like I've seen you can do that
Oh, yeah.
a million times. When I was altar usher and I was 1,000 miles away.
No, I was just.
Altar usher, and you hear that word and it's like,
Oh, that's good.
oh.
Right.
I should be doing that. Okay.
I thought it was.
Yeah,
sense is that you can go, I had to move the tables, I just would delay things for the start.
Oh, I would blend linear coding.
Okay. I don't mean quite so harshly, but you feel like energy, sort of like, he's not moving, he's not in a straight line.
Oh,
Yeah, and I pointed really harsh, I didn't mean to point so harshly.
well, it was before the Tay shows, so they didn't have the benefit of all that.
Yeah,
Filling your being, flowing out from your heart into the Zen of the world.
and then the last mistake was mine. So I should have just kept the Kindle going into somehow I thought she was already in space. We went to the sides, and I clicked it, and I should have just waited for her. I should have just kept walking, even though it was late, even though we were behind, because that wasn't fair to show time, but that was on me.
And at the end of the Tay show, why did Keegan get up and take it?
Because you guys weren't moving.
I know, you always wait, like you go through the first time of the. I do.
As soon as the bells are, as soon as the bells are over.
As soon as the bells are over, you do it?
You guys were supposed to get down here on
Oh, well, in the old days,
carpet. When we're doing the Bodhisattva vows and it's coming up to the very last round of or not Bodhisattva vows.
The vows, it's the vows and the vows.
Yeah, you guys should be there right when the Bodhisattva vows start. You should come down.
I screwed up so many times.
It's okay. Yeah, you guys are supposed to be on carpet.
oh, we're supposed to go over the bells and we can go back. Oh, that's what was wrong.
At least you told me
There's a real specific way. You should both come up this side.
Yeah.
You should both come up
Okay.
this side.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I got it now, it's like,
let me
I forgot about that
finish.
whole part,
So,
you go
and you should
back.
come up to this side, let your robe settle, and then step sideways in front of the teacher. Bow, pick it up, step away from her before, turn back and then go down that aisle. Am I right?
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so-
that reminder.
Instead of going back up the same way, because,
Correct.
right, yeah.
But you gotta let check every time, because like, not everybody knows that, and so
Yeah.
if you don't, the
We'll go into each other.
Yeah.
Wait,
I think I did that with you one
It's a
time.
One-way road.
it's a one-way road.
I have to go.
Gotcha.
I'm just.
Well, I gotta stop.
Practice. I'm out. Go, Kyo.
Oh,
I'll go.
Restored.
all right, good.
Okay.
We let the liturgy meeting be straightened out. That's what happens after.
Thank you.
The service.